How are you doing this, Martin from Gardens for Life? Unfortunately, I am down to one arm, as you can see. For some time now, I'm probably going to be wearing a sling for another 4 weeks. Unfortunately, I broke the bone in my shoulder with a silly accident, but that will only slow me down for so long, hopefully, and doing some more gardening along the way, a little bit at a time. And I want to show you some of our gardens now and what they look like at the very end of May. So we're just coming into the summer now, and it's going to be really interesting to see. And you know, it really does give me time to actually reflect on all sorts of different decisions that I've been making on the garden, but also it puts forward a challenge actually to make the gardens even less maintenance than we've always been putting emphasis on it. When you're down to one arm, really everything comes as a challenge. Even watering your plants in the greenhouse, it all takes about 3 or 4 or 5 times as long. Things have definitely slowed down a little bit for us around here, so I do apologise to our audience that we won't be having quite as much content out or as many workshops. We will be putting them on again in a few weeks' time, and we're going to have a seed and plant swap again in June. It's just going to have to be delayed by a few weeks. So stay tuned for those events, and if you want to follow us or subscribe to our email list to stay in touch, and then we'll let you know when we're having our next seed and plant swap. It's going to be a really good one, I have a feeling, because we do have a video of the last one already out, so people get an idea of what to expect. So hopefully we'll get more people to participate this time. I think the key with gardening and in general making the garden as low maintenance as possible at the same time as keeping the productivity very high is to simply let go and actually let nature do a lot of the work, including of course the growing, which you can't really do much about unless you're providing the right nutrients for the soil life. But also the idea is to keep the spacing, let nature take care of the spacing of the plants as well. And oftentimes we actually let plants reseed, such as kale and marigolds as well. And even our fennel actually reseeded too in recent years. Hello, Mother. You taking care of the garden? We had some King Stropharia actually popping up here, even though I didn't plant them here actually. Planted those actually in a different corner of the garden. This is the pizza garden, 2 years. This is the 3rd season, so it's 2.5 years old almost. It's a little messy. It hasn't been taken care of very much. There are a few weeds popping up all right, but it's not bad considering we've been spending very little maintenance on this garden. We have a few volunteer great mullein plants here, and Olympic mullein too. You can look at this one. It's multi-stemmed. It's actually also known as Greek mullein. And some chard from last year. We planted that before the winter. I would not really recommend planting chard or kale just before the winter, because it will bolt in spring, as it does with any biennials or all the brassicas as well. You can see here, this is white Russian kale or Siberian kale. We've been cutting that back for the last 2 or 3 months now, and it keeps growing vigorously. We often we grow kale actually specifically to feed to our chickens, so that we keep them very healthy, and they love the greens. Personally, I believe that you have to be feeding your birds greens as well as grains, not just pure grain diet. I don't think that's healthy for anyone, including us humans. Here you can see a giant oregano bush. And this is our chard from last year. I honestly don't believe in the hungry gap. If you keep some of your plants from last year, you will not have such thing as a hungry gap. For example, this is rainbow chard, and we simply left them in the ground and we keep chopping them back. So you can even use these flower heads here. They taste really good. you just saute them for a minute in the frying pan, and whether it's breakfast or dinner, you can do a lot with them. We also have some perennial parsleys here, and our fennel, which is perennial too. It is a highly medicinal plant. It's a really good one, and you can see here it grows back vigorously every year, and it's making lots of little seedlings along the path. Here you can see we might actually have to go about weeding those a little bit, and but it's nevertheless, it's great to have them here, and we use those in teas, or we even eat them as we go as well. You can use those in the cooking too. You can see everything is lush and green now. In the last 4 weeks things really have taken off as the temperatures have risen. This is our famous Birdland elderberry tree. You can see we're going to get lots of softwood cuttings from that tree. We still have potted plants available on our website if anyone's interested. There's all kinds of berry bushes and perennial flowers. You can see we planted some of our own berry bushes here. There is some red currant, white currant, black currant, flowering currants, josta berries, and some gooseberries. We're definitely not going to have a shortage of currants this year anyway. I believe we've finally outgrown the birds. Time will tell. As you can see here, the willows have also put on about 3 foot of growth already. Same as our Jerusalem artichokes. This is the variety Fuzhou. Some of the varieties grow earlier than others, but you can see here how lush they are. They're about 3 feet tall now, or a metre. It's just an ocean of Jerusalem artichoke. As you can see here, even the comfrey plant that I planted here about a year and 2 months ago has also grown huge. It's about 1.5 meters tall now. And this giant red currant bush that has actually tip layered, and we just let it grow. And more Jerusalem artichokes, and lots of raspberries, and nettles too. Those need to be pulled up. This is a mixed flower bed, mainly perennial flowers. Some of the willow arches turned out a little bit gothic. And we also planted some onions here in our pizza garden too. We also have a top secret gardening project going on. Well, it's not really a secret because I'm going to make videos about it. As you can see, there is it looks like an attack of the giant moles over there, some compost piles. And we're going to be installing another garden back here. This is the Brassica Island. We're definitely going to get some a nice mixture of kale seeds, and not to forget the volunteering self-seeded purple tree spinach is also growing here. So we have a lot of plants that actually self-seeded that we don't have to replant every year. Well, granted, they're not exactly straight rows and whatnot, but at the same time, that's okay as long as we keep the grasses down in between. Now, just to put it into perspective, this ground here has not been cultivated, but there is a bit of a path around the actual Brassica Island. All of our rooted cuttings are doing quite well. Some of them didn't take, as you can see here, the roses, but a lot of the figs and the gooseberries and the sea buckthorn and the elders are looking real good. Nice. Here's some of our courgette plants. Of course, we started way too many courgettes, but it doesn't matter. We'll get those planted and we'll see what happens. And our yacons too. Let me just show you in here real quick. Here's the keeper of the greenhouse, Sheldon. He takes care of the plants here and the seeds. As you can see here, we've got lots of things ready to go out into the garden. Nice oxalis. It's a beautiful plant and it's very tasty too. We have our ashiki kuris here, which is our favourite variety of pumpkin. We'll get those planted out this week. And this is all yacons. Lots of yacon plants. And rhubarb and some vegetables. Loads of different bits and pieces here. Mainly perennial flowers and perennial vegetables. But I think especially lower maintenance perennial gardens and no-dig garden beds too are key when it comes to making it less work for yourself, especially if you're incapacitated, especially temporarily. If you have an injury, for example, or if you have some sort of a physical challenge, even if it's only temporary, it still slows you down a lot. And I think we're going to be exploring ways of making things a lot easier on ourselves in the near future, just in case something like this happens again, God forbid. But you know, you better think ahead. Well, that's it for the quick tour, and thanks a million for watching. If you want to stay in touch with us especially about current events or upcoming events, I should say, and seed and plant swaps, just subscribe to our email list. That's probably the best way, and it's free. Yeah, see you the next time.